Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
This always feels like a very exciting time of year to me.
Yep.
It's September 1st. It was pretty chilly last night.
Yeah, definitely, especially after it being like 90 2 days ago.
Yep. Days are getting shorter.
Yep.
Winter is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And whenever we start these comparison series videos, it always feels like the start of the countdown to ski season to me.
No, and you've been excited about this for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
For good reason.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's also different than like everything we've been doing for the past 6 months.
Right.
We get like really analytical and ski test writing and all that kind of stuff. And this, I know you guys enjoy it, but Bob and I really enjoy it too, because it kind of gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more informal and more conversational and just kind of discuss all these skis.
Yeah, we've been doing so much with them individually over the summer.
Exactly.
It's great to see them come together as a group.
Yeah. So without further ado, we'll get right into it because I'm sure this will be pretty long. As always, we put the timestamps in so you can skip around to different skis that you're interested in and stuff like that. I will say I'm very excited about the amount of supporting action footage we have this year.
Yeah, I mean, we ski with cameras a whole lot.
Yeah.
And that certainly comes to fruition at this point.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy or notice an uptick in quality in the skiing footage. So we'll start things off over here on my side of the wall. I've got the Armada Declivity 102 Ti. It's been around for a few years now. Back unchanged, just a new top sheet graphic. When I was writing this comparison, I felt like this was such a good place to start. And this is probably a good time to mention that we're just going in alphabetical order for this first one. In future videos, we'll go by weight and price and flex pattern and stuff like that and kind of get more creative with it. But starting here with Armada at the top of the alphabet, and it's an extremely well-rounded ski. Wood core, Armada's articulated Titanal banding, so you have some strength and stability and vibration damping in this ski. But if you want to hand that one back to me, we have a decent amount of rocker in this ski too. So it's kind of one of those skis that just has a very even mix of performance characteristics.
Yep.
There's a handful of skis on this wall that you can say that about. Good edge grip, just a nice feel when you're skiing fast, but then it's agile too. It's got kind of that like free ride influence surfiness to it, which I really like.
Yeah, and a lot of people will kind of, assume that Armada is a lot more like free ride, freestyle oriented.
Right.
But the way that they quiet the ski down really gives it a lot of credence in that all-mountain format.
Absolutely.
You just kind of feel like there's nothing on your feet, even though you're moving.
Yep.
It's just one of those really smooth and stable and quiet skis that just does a lot of things really well, really intuitive.
Absolutely. And in the sake of comparison, there's some really good skis up here to compare it to, and we'll talk more about this as we go through, but a lot of similarities to that Black Crow's Justis behind me.
Yep.
I'd say the biggest difference there is the weight. This ski comes in a little bit lighter. We do have the scale here with us. Some of these skis still have demo tracks on them, so some of them we won't be weighing, but if applicable and appropriate, I'll flash the weight up on the screen so we have something to reference. But sub 2,000 grams, 1,930 grams. So it's not the heaviest ski in the world by any means.
Right.
We did a really quick run through these skis before we started filming and just used words like medium and heavy and light to describe them, and this is one that falls right into that medium category. So great ski to start with.
Yeah, for sure. And
Really,
we always kind of talk about how this thing likes to kick out of the turn.
Yeah.
This kind of accentuated part before that tapered tail really just bumps you out and rockets you into the next turn.
Yeah, when you're carving.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
then
what
if
I've
you're like
always felt.
riding a flatter ski, you get that kind of wiggle factor, and it's a very well-rounded ski.
Yeah. I like the sound or lack thereof.
Powerful, directional, all-mountain ski with a counterculture attitude because it's an Armada.
Yes. In a nutshell. Atomic Bent 100. We've dropped the Chetler in the 90, 100, 110. The 120 still gets the full Bent Chetler name, but 100 is going by Bent these days. There's no change structurally. We do get this really, really nice updated top sheet for sure. The artwork on these, I mean, when we had Atomic Bent Media Day, like
They popped.
They popped. You know, we
Totally.
put these skis together and they just popped. So it definitely adds that, you know, that window shopping, window dressing value to the ski. But
For a two-dimensional graphic, there's a lot of depth to this.
totally.
Really cool in person.
Yeah, and when they're all together, they all look great. Like
Yeah.
the whole series is just really impressive.
Well done, Atomic.
But same great playful ski, you know, 100 millimeters underfoot. We got that freestyle twin tip, you know, attitude about it with that really nice flex. I own a couple years old pair of this ski, and it's one of the best tree skis that I've ever been on here in Vermont, especially when we get some fresh snow. It's just incredibly easy to maneuver. Jeff just flexed it a little bit, but just to reiterate,
Tips
you
and
know,
tails are nice
that
and
was just the
supple.
demo binding. But
Breaking
yeah,
the demo track.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. But pretty simple, you know, just a poplar wood core in here, and then they get the rest of it with the shaping. They add the energy with the camber underfoot, so they're able to get that ski with a good amount of snap and pop.
Yeah.
But you know, nice rocker in the tips and tails as well. Goes along with that Horizon tech, you know, in the tips and tails, makes the thing float, act like a boat hull. And you had mentioned that two-dimensional graphic, and I thought it was funny because we kind of have a three-dimensional ski.
shape, sure, yeah.
So it's a pretty
point.
interesting, you know, dichotomy there of those dimensions. But certainly falls more on the playful versus business end of the spectrum.
100%.
You know, when we're talking about Armada or Black Crows, this is on the other end of the spectrum for sure. Definitely more in line with, you know, skis like Line Blend.
Yeah, this M-Free 99. I thought that was
Yeah.
a great comparison to this ski. There's some differences though. This ski is more like energetic and snappy and
Yeah.
responsive. This ski's a little smoother and damper and kind of surfy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, you mentioned Armada. This would really be a better comparison to skis like the ARV 96.
Correct.
Or Black Crows, you mentioned that. Better comparison to like a Camix or something like
Yeah.
that. Those skis didn't fall exactly in the 100 millimeter category, so that's why you're seeing different skis from those brands. But the other thing that I always like to say about the Bent is it's such a good example of how good a ski can be with just a wood core.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation that we have quite a bit here, and I feel like this is like the benchmark ski for that conversation.
Yeah, definitely a great place to start.
Yep. Also, like, supremely versatile in both its performance and kind of who it's best for.
Huge range.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge range of skier.
Right, like you can almost center mount it and use it as a park ski,
Yeah.
or you can go full traditional and put like a touring binding on it. And those are just like opposite ends of the spectrum, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool how it achieves both of those things.
Yeah, and it goes down to like a 164 maybe.
Sounds right to me.
So, you know, even like that, it's at that tweener size too. So,
Yeah.
you know, we see a lot of kind of teenage kids on these skis here at Stowe, and
Yep.
it just seems like a perfect.
Yeah, but then you
perfect
see like
option.
60-year-old tree skiers on them too.
Yeah,
It's just really interesting how this ski has kind of like, it's gained a strong following from a huge range of skiers.
yep, totally.
So sticking with Atomic, the next ski we're going to talk about is the Maverick 100. And boy, I know we've had this conversation before, but what an impressive ski in just how Atomic is achieving the amount of power and vibration damping while keeping the weight down. So you mentioned it, I think before we started filming, that this is actually a little bit lighter than the Bent 100.
With metal.
But we have sheets of metal in
Yeah.
this ski. So really impressive. You know, anytime a manufacturer can achieve that, and I think that's maybe like the best example of recent developments in the ski industry, is manufacturers are getting better and better at retaining the strength and stability and vibration damping that comes along with metal, but keeping that weight down.
Yeah.
So I really like that, and I always take note and really appreciate when they can achieve that. And this ski, you know, it differs a little bit from the Bent 100. There's a lot of crossover in Atomic's line in the 100 millimeter range. Like
Yeah,
we could have the
3 of them.
Backland 100
Yeah.
up here too. Even the shapes are pretty similar among them. I think the big difference between skis like the Bent and this Maverick 100 is the tail. So this tail is quite a bit stiffer and stronger and a little flatter too. So this ski has more preference of kind of completing a carving turn with some power and responsiveness, where the Bent would wash out a little earlier.
Yeah.
But it's still extremely agile too. We still get horizon tech up here in the tip. That kind of helps its overall soft snow performance. Because it's light, you can still flick it around. Just with the difference in the tail, it's not going to feel like slow and surfy when you're maneuvering it. It's more quicker and responsive, and kind of doesn't require a skier with really good technique, but I think it would enhance that skier's ability. Like it likes when you're really good at skiing.
Yeah.
If you're the type of skier that's got good technique and you put a lot of input and like you make distinct movements, I think the ski works really, really well. And then as we've seen, and I'm pretty sure I have the footage that I can put in here along with it, it can still rail some turns.
I think this thing rips.
It's incredible.
Absolutely rips.
Yeah, it's incredible how strong it is, given it, like with its weight.
Yeah.
There are like some situations where a lighter ski would get deflected more, and like that's gonna happen if you compared it to like a Bonafide 97 or a Justis that we're gonna look at next. Those skis maybe track better through like choppier conditions.
Yeah.
But it's a give and take thing, because those skis are much more fatiguing and more demanding when you're trying to wiggle them through trees. At least the Bonafide is.
Yeah.
So.
No, last
cool.
year when we got on these for the first time, we had like 4 days in a row of a lot of different snow conditions.
Yep.
And that was a really good test. And then this year when we had them, it was like firm.
Yep.
And that was almost an even better test, that to finally get it on like some hard snow.
Yeah.
And just very impressed.
Yeah, I think it surpassed both of our expectations.
And I'm also grateful that they always bring the 188 to try in that
to our test days?
To our test days.
Just for you, Bob.
Just for me. You know, the 180 is fine, but the 188 is definitely more my style.
Yeah. Speaking of something that's your style.
Yeah, and I actually go back and forth with the sizing on this one. This Black Crow's Justis, this is last year's graphic.
Oh, yes. I meant to mention that at
apologies.
the beginning of the video. There are two skis up here that don't have 2023 graphics, this and the Stance 102. So if you already picked up on that, you're very intelligent and
You're an astute observer of ski graphics.
exactly. Luckily, with both of these skis, and it's interesting because they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
Like perhaps maybe like two of the closest skis up here in their similarities. Both skis carry over for shape and construction.
Yep.
So we're just graphics.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And super impressive. You know, just again, pretty amazing what Black Crow's is doing with this ski here. This Justis, you know, when we got on it the first time a few years ago, pretty impressed with the on-trail performance, you know, 100 millimeters underfoot. You know, logic is telling you that it shouldn't carve the way it does, but just very impressive performance overall. 2,103 grams Jeff has on the scale in this 183. And then the tail rocker is really the big difference in terms of the profile.
Totally.
We do have this very pronounced tail rocker shape to it, which really kind of gives the ski a good mix of behaviors, from using that metal underfoot and through these H-shaped plates that extend along the sides in the forebody and through the tail. So that gives the ski its precision to the snow. You know, every movement that you put into your boots going right through that metal, right into the snow, giving you great grip. And then the rocker profile kind of counteracts and counterbalances that by adding a freestyle, free ride, playful personality to the ski. I was on them on our ski test day, so I got some spring snow mixed with some hard snow.
Yep.
And like from one to the next, you know, it's very inconsistent, you know, from that firm snow to that spring snow.
Yep.
And this thing, you couldn't even tell. It just stayed tracked and true right through.
Yep.
And so when a ski can do that and not flinch, that really speaks to the overall performance of it. But even in that softer snow, you can let that tail release, be a little bit more playful, a little bit more surfy, without losing that stability underfoot. You know, definitely one of the more impressive skis that I've been on in the past few years. So really big fan of this.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting blend of being strong and stable and powerful, but also agile and surfy.
Yeah.
The first time I skied it, I was just so hung up on that combination of performance characteristics that they're hard to put into a single ski.
Yeah.
And I think there's, we see some of those similarities over there in the Declivity. There's even probably some comparisons to this Ranger 102, although this is a little looser, a little more surfy. This is a little more responsive. You could even compare it to like the QST 98 over there.
Right.
Because long tail rocker. A little bit of different animals between those two skis. I'd say the QST feels more playful and this feels stronger. But yeah, super, super cool. And it's such a unique ski.
Yeah, and like I said when we first brought him out, this is the 183. This is what I was on. The next one up is like a 189.
Yeah,
which
it turns into a lot of ski.
That's a lot of ski. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And you can kind of say the same thing about Bonafide going from 183 to 189.
100%. I'm no longer a 180 plus Bonafide skier.
Right. And that's fine.
Yeah, no.
You don't need to add length to get stability with a ski like the Bonafide.
Nope.
And I would hesitate to call the 189 my size, especially given the success that I've had on that 183. It's hard to argue with results, even though your stats on paper might put you somewhere else.
Yeah, I would say like the exception to that might be if we lived in like Utah.
Yeah.
Or Oregon or something like that. I wonder if at that point you would lean more towards the 189. And maybe not.
Right.
Because it's still, like you said, plenty of ski.
Yeah.
And another ski that's plenty of ski that we just spoke about a little bit, Bonafide 97. This has always been like a benchmark ski in this category. It is like, I was wondering if somebody would make the comment that this is the narrowest ski up here, and we kind of could put it in the mid 90 comparison, and we might anyways, but it was hard to, I couldn't leave it out of this grouping of skis. And it is, among this grouping of skis, it is still, I would say it's the strongest. Like the stiffest, strongest, most powerful, most responsive ski up here.
Yeah.
If you're that type of skier, if you're a really, really good skier and you want just endless stability and tremendous edge grip, you can't really do much better than this.
I'm putting Enforcer and Mantra 102 up there with it.
I would too, and I would put MX98 there too.
Yeah, I would say that's appropriate.
But it still feels a little bit stronger than all of those skis to me. There's more metal in this ski than any other ski on this wall. Yeah. There's 2.5 sheets of metal in this ski.
And it comes through on the scale.
Exactly, over 2,200 grams, and this is the 183, I believe. I was just mentioning, I prefer this ski in 177 now. Yeah. And there's a lot of skis that I still want to go 180 plus. In fact, I would say most of the skis up here I would want at least a 180, but you don't need it in this because it's just so strong. I've said a lot of positive things about it so far, but you can say some negative things about it too. Like if you're an intermediate that's still working on your carving turns, this thing will like break your legs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a purpose for this ski, and it's not intended for an intermediate skier. Some people might be wondering where the Rustler 10 is. We decided to keep that in the mid 100 comparison. They could be in this comparison too, but if you want an easier going ski, Blizzard makes the Rustler.
Right.
This is all about strength and power and responsiveness and how it finishes a carving turn. Yeah. They have made it easier and easier and easier off trail as they've tweaked it throughout its years, but it's still pretty fatiguing and pretty demanding when you take it into trees or anything like that.
And then in this build, it's an interesting jump up to that Cochise 106.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that's a big leap as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say as you get wider through Brahmas, Bonafide, Cochise, they get more and more demanding. Yeah. Like a Brahma 82 is pretty approachable even for an intermediate skier. Brahma 88 starts to be a little bit more. Bonafide's quite a lot of ski. But it's so good.
Right.
And, like, it would be such a shame if we didn't have a ski like this. Because we've heard it, we see it in comments all the time. We'll talk about this, we'll say all the things that we just said, and then somebody in the comments will be like, yeah, it's my favorite ski.
Right.
I've owned like 3 pairs of them, I'm gonna keep buying them as long as they keep making them. So I know that there's skiers that love it. I love it. I've owned a Bonafide before, and I skied it a ton. It doesn't really like match my skiing style, but it's undeniable how good it is as just a fast, powerful ski.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have vivid memories of the first generation Bonafide.
Yep.
And that, like, I don't know if it would still be my favorite if I got on it again, but I remember getting on it, you know, back in the day. I don't even know how long ago, but
Almost 10 years.
yeah, and thinking like, wow, this is a whole new thing in skis
100%.
that I have never felt before.
And it has inspired
a
ton of the skis up on this wall right now.
Not this one.
No. This, in fact, when I was writing the comparison, it's so funny going from Bonafide 97 to this thing.
Yeah, and sorry we only have the 163, the ballet
That
version.
makes it even a bigger difference.
Yeah.
You ski a 183 Bonafide 97 and then a 163 Pagoda 100.
Right.
You're going to have very different skiing experiences.
That's a different sport. You know, it's just a different sport. I'll hold it up like this so it looks longer. But still, a really cool ski. Certainly has its place on this wall, mainly because of its differences.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about, you know, when we
This
do
is
a
a
comparison video.
Right, exactly.
You know, we're talking about similarities. This is kind of the contrast, but it still has a lot of, you know, things that all of these skis have, just in a slightly different format. DPS uses carbon, these 2 sheets of carbon in their build to really get the energy of the ski. But the big thing is the RP shaping. And, you know, I do wish we had the longer size because the profile and shape are more magnified the longer you get.
Yeah. And
so
it kind of looks silly in these shorter lengths.
Yeah, this is a funny looking ski. But basically they adhere to a 15-meter turn radius with their RP shaping, and then they have to adjust the taper and the rocker in order to get that 15-meter radius. So in the 163, you know, it doesn't look like there's a ton of camber. If this was the 183 or 184, you would be seeing a whole lot more dramatic rocker in the tip and in the tail, as well as more taper. So it would really, that fat part of the ski gets dropped down lower, really gives you that, you know, nice poppy flotation. And RP stands for resort powder. So these are meant to be used in softer snow. And when you get onto the right length, it does make a huge difference in terms of how that ski pops in and out of the snow, making that 15-meter turn radius.
Highly maneuverable.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things I pointed out was kind of the similarity here with how QST 98 changed their radius as of last year. So that obviously carries forward to this year. But by dropping down that turn radius, they really kind of elongated that taper, made this thing a really turny, floaty ski for how wide it is.
Yeah, sure.
So between these two, I think the relative flotation is pretty darn high.
I'd throw M-Free 99 into that conversation as well, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about next, so we don't really need to throw it into this conversation. But some similarities there, too.
Yeah.
It's almost like very similar conversation and like style skis. You're just getting from that ski to that ski to this ski, you're getting closer and closer to a true twin tip.
Yeah.
And that's where you're starting to feel the differences. This is 100% a directional ski.
Yep. And pretty stiff. You know, they definitely use that carbon to their advantage. I spent, I'd say, 3 to 4 days, not last spring, the spring ago, on this ski, and kind of felt that it really had a lot of energy in the tail.
Yeah.
And that even though it might look a little strange and have that extended rocker, it let you know when you were in the back seat. So you definitely have to be on it. But really one of the better, you know, combinations of lightweight and stiffness, you know, that will come through in the core as well.
Yeah.
But a very unique blend of attributes that really set this thing on a different plane than the rest of these skis.
And I think something that happens with the Pagoda 100 and probably all of DPS's skis in general is because they're so good in powder and because they're so good in trees, their capabilities on piste gets like kind of glossed over.
Yep.
This does make some really nice carving turns. There's some good torsional stiffness in this ski. It's just, you have to remember, it's a short effective edge and a 15-meter turn radius.
Right.
So when we're talking about carving, we're talking more about like moderate speed, very round, kind of medium to shorter radius turns.
Yeah.
As long as you're sticking to that, it's a pretty rewarding carving ski. You don't just want to go like 60 miles an hour down the fall line like you can on a ski like the Bonafide.
Yeah. And that stiffness of the carbon does allow you to get it up on that higher edge angle.
Totally.
To access that whole side cut. So it's a pretty cool combination of the shape and profile.
Yeah. So like I said, it's kind of fun transitioning from the Pagoda 100 to this Dynastar M-Free 99. Both skis are very, very agile, very, very maneuverable, but this is much, much more of a twin tip. There's way more freestyle influence in its design and shape and all that stuff. I really like talking about this ski in comparison to the M-Pro 99. Yep. Same width, but very, very different feel. This ski is agile and playful and very, very supple and smeary. I think this is maybe one of the most impressive skis I've ever been on, specifically in reference to being maneuverable with good vibration damping as well. And I think that's pretty much all coming from Dynastar's hybrid core with that PU material in there. But really, really fun ski, and the type of ski that will actually satisfy a lot of different skiers, much in the same way that we described the Bent 100. And I do believe we brought up this ski when talking about the Bent 100. That ski is quicker, more responsive. This ski is smeary and more surfy. Yep. But you can do the same thing. Somebody like me might choose to kind of center mount your bindings, use it as more of like a park-inspired pseudo freestyle ski. Somebody like yourself, Bob, you might just go further back, more of a traditional mount point, and it's a really, really fun tree ski.
Yep.
Super, super easy in the trees. Maybe one of the most forgiving skis up here because it's not too stiff. You know, you have a nice, pretty forgiving flex pattern in this ski and a lot of tail rocker. So when you've got that much tail rocker, you're never really going to feel locked into a turn, which takes away some carving performance. Sure, that's not really the design of this ski, and the tail is specifically where it differs from the M-Pro. But it, you know, it can carve, and then it's just super, super fun and super, super agile and smeary and playful. Awesome.
Yeah, I found that you have to, if you're of a certain mass as a person.
Yes, this is a ski that like you probably have a very different experience on it than I do.
I want to like this so much more than I do.
Yeah.
And even this at the 185, we're at just about 2,000 grams.
2,000 grams, yeah.
So it's got some heft to it.
Right in the middle. One of those medium weight skis.
Yeah, I just push right through this shovel.
Which is fine. And somebody like you, if you're considering it, keep in mind that it's not the type of ski where you're going to be driving the tip to start your turn. It's more like a side-to-side lateral initiation. Yeah. If you're skinny and lightweight like me, you probably won't find the same limitations, but it's not like you can ski this like you can ski a Bonafide or an M-Pro 99. So.
But like you said in the woods, like that's where I've had my positive experience.
It's so good in the trees.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
And part of that is that they're using the same profile as they use in their 108, in the M-Free 108. So
it's like a narrow powder ski.
It's a narrow powder ski, and it's just such a cool blend of that density and that free ride inspiration from the tail. So just a really, really cool ski. You know, I just wish it was a little bit more substantial right here for me, and maybe a few extra centimeters.
Yep.
You know, I feel like for this 185, it skis a little short.
I think you're going to start seeing more and more of these on the hill.
Yep.
I haven't seen a ton of them out there, and it's a great ski. And it kind of, in talking to some people at Dynastar, it almost feels like they made it and didn't realize how good it was. Right. And now after having it out there for a year, they're like, oh, this thing's really good. We should probably give that more attention. So I wonder if we'll see more of them.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a cult style following.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of, you know, they used to make the Slicer and then the Menace, which was much more similar to this.
And this is different.
That's different.
It's a lot looser.
Yeah, and so like this has its following.
Yep.
And in the Dynastar world as well. I mean, we still see them out there on the hill.
A lot of Menace 98s out there. Yep.
And that was a big ski here at Stowe. Just a nice, easygoing, but yet still high performance twin tip.
100%.
So great ski for here in Vermont and probably all over the world.
Yeah. Now it's sibling, which is quite a bit different.
Yeah, this one adds metal to the mix and a pretty much flatter tail. It definitely, this M-Pro 99 definitely has the feel of a high performance ski, but it also has that personality that makes it pretty floaty, especially in the shovel. This one, this is the 178, it's 1,850 grams. So, you know, it's lighter than the M-Free, but it's also shorter. But they just do a great job at kind of combining this really gratuitous splay in the tip.
Well, it's almost like the tip of a Pagoda 100.
Yeah, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
With just a highly business-like tail.
It's the reverse mullet ski. It's party in the front, it's business in the back, and it's all business in the back.
Yeah, man, this thing grips and rips really tight to any type of firm snow. The metal in the ski ends here, which is right where the rocker starts. So, you know, they're lining up the power with the power and then the playfulness with the playfulness, which makes a lot of sense. And then that metal that goes underfoot tapers to the middle and then ends about here, which again is right where the rocker starts.
Yep.
So, you know, not coincidental how that happens. They're, you know, trying to combine these attributes of the ski, and it really makes sense. A lot of camber underfoot on this one. You know, we're definitely getting that good grip. Excellent snap and energy. They use that hybrid core as well, so you get the dampness of the polyurethane to go along with the energy of the wood and the fiberglass and the metal.
Smooth.
So another one that we think gets overlooked, you know, this and the M-Pro 90, you know, have the same construction, and it just, you know, it's a great ski. We just I don't think we see enough of them out there.
Yeah.
You know,
No, you don't.
There's a lot to like about this thing.
And a lot of people that have been shopping in the Bonafide, Enforcer 100, in that realm, mantras, stuff like that. I feel like any skier like that should at least take a closer look at this ski, because it satisfies a lot of the same things, but it has its own feel.
Yeah, a longer turn radius helps out with that too. This is a 178. We get a 20-meter turn radius, which is similar to what we see in Black Crows, and then as well in Salomon Stance, where we get even longer. But when you get up to the 186, I think it's like 23, 24 meter arc.
Big ski.
So you can let it run pretty straight, and it's a whole lot of fun at speed. You know, it just has that nice blend, which is kind of a hallmark of all of these skis, is that they're blending attributes in order to create an effect or a personality. But really, really awesome choice. Shouldn't be overlooked. You know, just has that awesome business tail and really, really easy to get through the trees. You always talk about this as a skier ski.
Yes, I think that's like my favorite way to describe it, because you have to tell it what to do.
Yep.
Both in how you initiate carves and how you maneuver it through trees.
Yes.
You can't just leave it glued to the snow like you can on an M-Free 99 and expect it to just wiggle and wash around behind you. You have to be actively unweighting the tail and like putting it where you want it to go, which a lot of skiers really like. Like, you know, we all try and improve our technique, and you get to a point where it's like kind of fun to use all of the tools that you have as a skier to go where you want to go and make a ski like the M-Pro 99 perform to the level that it can perform.
Yeah, and I like skiing on shorter radius skis like that RP or the QST 98, but for my personal choice, day in, day out, I prefer a longer turn radius like this.
Sure.
Which is just allows you to put more of your own input onto the mountain and the terrain.
Right. It's not pulling you into a turn. It's not making one type of turn shape. It will make any type of turn shape. You just have to give it the proper input to do that. Next ski up here is the Celeste ski, hashtag Celeste Ski Squad, Teal Ski Gang. I don't know. The Instagrams are beyond me sometimes.
Yeah, Celeste is a lot less.
I've seen both.
Interesting than just teal.
Teal.
Looks teal to me.
It's pretty teal. But this is the new Ranger 100 or 102. We've talked about this ski quite a bit over the past, not quite full year, but almost a year. We've been aware of it for a long time. We kind of helped Blizzard a little bit in the prototyping and testing.
Fischer.
What did I say?
Blizzard.
Weird. We helped Fischer quite a bit in the prototyping and testing process. And I really, really like this ski. And I have admitted before that I was really nervous when they were changing the 102 FR. I think they did a really good job in this ski. It is still extremely well-rounded. It's still very, very playful. It's still pretty darn strong. If anything, they made it a little stronger, in my opinion. Or maybe that just comes through in its vibration damping, because I think it's a little bit quieter and smoother when you're skiing fast and aggressively.
Yeah.
That was like my only gripe with the Ranger 102 FRs. The tips and tails could get kind of deflected because they were so light.
So I missed the 99 more than I missed the pink ski.
That's fine.
That's where my personal preference was
Sure.
in this realm.
Well, I think you could say that they took a little bit of 99 performance and tried to put it in here.
Yeah.
But very, very well-rounded ski. If you want to talk about an even mix of performance characteristics or the type of ski that you can just grab and ski on any day, no matter what the snow conditions are, this is one of the best ones up here.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the Enforcer 100 in that sense. The other ski that I was kind of comparing it to would be like the Declivity 102, stuff like that. They're very, very well-rounded. You can do anything on them. This is pretty forgiving and pretty approachable too.
Yeah.
You know, if you were to compare it directly to an Enforcer 100, definitely easier to ski, and you're not like losing that much in terms of performance, stability, edge grip, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get into the turn.
Yeah,
and especially on groomers.
And the tips and tails are pretty soft.
Yeah.
So when you're kind of initiating a turn, it's easy to get the ski to bend. People that are lighter, like myself, that really helps quite a bit. Just over 2,000 grams, almost closer to 2,100 in this ski. So there's a little bit of heft to it.
Yeah.
But I still think it's playful too. I kind of went back and forth between this 183 and I think the next one down is the 176. I really like skiing both of them. I would say if you're like me and you feel like you're in between sizes on this ski, if you like skiing fast and aggressively, go longer. If you want to maximize like quickness and trees and stuff like that, go shorter. Because I did notice a significant difference between the 183 and the 176.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I'll say about this, mostly in regards to the previous generation, is there's been a lot of talk about how it's a different shape. When we did the full review of this ski, we looked at them really, really closely together, and they are basically the identical shape. So anyone out there that is saying these skis are different shapes, you're just wrong.
It's really just this part was slightly more rounded.
Yeah,
on the
but like the side cut
outgoing.
dimensions and everything are like practically identical. The one thing that does make this more of a directional ski is the placement of the metal. So the metal is set back. So the previous ski, you had some customization in where you want to mount it. This ski, with that metal, and you have this cut to kind of give it more flex right underfoot, there's less customization in where you're going to mount your bindings.
Right.
But just such a fun, well-rounded ski that you can confidently take out of your car or off your ski rack or out of your garage, just knowing that you're going to have a fun ski day no matter what the conditions are.
Yep, I think they did a really nice job in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we got a Headcore 99. Really, really interesting that they changed this ski from last year to this year.
They put a top sheet on it.
They put a top sheet on it.
Which doesn't sound like much, but turns out that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. You know, they always try to get away with weight savings through the lack of a top sheet. So they just kind of, wherever their last laminate was, it was like some type of polyester fleece material. They left it as is, and that was the graphic and the top sheet. Now they've put an actual top sheet on here. Does two things. One, increases kind of the durability. You know, some of the complaints that we got here, on the retail side of things was chipping. And then the other thing is that it just adds another level of silence to it. So
yeah, it feels much smoother.
So much smoother. I think when they first came out, that first iteration was definitely a little bit choppy. They fixed that up with with this new construction, and then took it a step further with the top sheet.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Really find just a nice fine tuning to the ski, and really, really an interesting option for a bunch of different skiers. I mean, we kind of go back and forth on this a lot. When these cores came out, we were first like, well, these are for lighter weight skiers that want something light, that want to be able to swish it around. And then the more I skied on them, the more I'm like, no, You need to be heavier
Heavier
so
skier
that you can bend it.
Yeah.
So
it's like the opposite of this M-Free 99.
Totally.
Where you were pushing through it. I struggled to bend that ski, and then because it's so snappy and responsive, when I do bend it, it's like nerve-wracking.
Right.
Where you don't experience that same thing because you're a little bigger and it's easier to kind of transmit all your power.
Yeah. I've had a positive experience on every version of the Core 99 I've been on, but this one is by far the best.
Yeah, you love it.
I love this thing. And I
Yep.
skied this length, the 177.
Right, which is fascinating.
Right. And I haven't gotten on the 184. I'm interested, and I kind of hope I like it.
I think I'm sure you would like it.
I hope I don't hate it. But the lightness of this, combined with this size, we got on it in a nice snow day, skied it in the woods, skied it on the groomers. Really does everything quite well. But there is kind of that gap of a lighter weight, more technical skier such as yourself that gets that thing up on edge and doesn't quite have the weight to power through the carve.
Yeah.
So there's just an interesting range, whereas Ranger, Stockli we talk about having that range of abilities. This one is a little bit more narrow. Definitely more of a try before you buy type of ski with these cores, whereas a lot of these others are, buy and ski sight unseen, no problem. This might be an acquired taste for people, but if you're in that range, like there's not a whole lot more on this wall that I would rather ski on a daily situation than this, because you get that combination of lightweight performance, agility, and grip and power. So there's not a whole lot else that has that combination. It's a unique ski.
Yeah.
So 1,724 grams. I believe that's our lightest gram per centimeter ski on the wall.
Stiffest also.
And our stiffest ski. So,
Wild.
It's just a crazy thing. I've had nothing but positive experiences on it. So,
and I appreciate all of its benefits.
Yeah.
I would not choose this as my daily driver ski. I don't necessarily love carving on it for the reasons that we just spoke about, but sure do I appreciate how quick it is in the trees.
Yeah.
It's such a technical ski too, in the way that it just wiggles and dances through trees.
Yeah.
Like if you've got good technique and you like your skis to respond as quick as possible, you will not find a more responsive or quicker ski than this.
Correct. Each movement that you put in is
Immediately,
directly
yeah.
translated.
100%.
Yeah.
Which, that's where you run into some issues too.
Right.
Because if you're like an intermediate with questionable technique, that ski could beat you up.
But those skiers are normally dealing with a shallower edge angle,
That's also
a
true.
flatter ski, which
Yep.
is fine.
Yep.
It's when if you don't have the skills and then you get it up high on an edge.
Yeah, it might put you on your butt.
Yeah, that's when you're going for a ride. So It's just an interesting blend. I'm impressed with the improvements that they made just by
100%.
adding a top sheet.
Yep.
So
No, and I like it more in this form than I ever have before.
Yep.
By a significant amount. Next ski up here is the K2 Mindbender 99 Ti. We actually just did a full review of this ski, so if you want to listen to Emily and I talk about it for like 24 minutes, we just put that up last week. So you can take a look at that. K2 retained pretty much all the concepts of this ski from like a broad perspective. They just tweaked it and, in my opinion, made it a little bit better. So one of those skis that's kind of right in the middle of the road in overall performance and also in weight. Very, very versatile. Kind of going back to like skis like the Ranger 102, Declivity 102, Enforcer 100, stuff like that, where you can just pick it up and take it to the mountain knowing that it's going to do what you need it to do. Just about 2,000 grams exactly in this ski. In the past few years since this ski came out, I really drew a lot of similarities between it and the Enforcer 100. It really felt like they were right in the same category, very similar application, very similar performance. I do think with this new version, thanks to some longer tail rocker, it's starting to lean closer to like Justis or Stance 102, all those skis with more tail rocker but still metal in their construction.
Yeah.
So there's more freeride influence in its shape and also how it skis. So that's mostly noticeable in how it releases its tail edge. Easier to kind of pivot and slash turns on it, but it's still a precise ski. You know, the way that K2 positions the metal through the forebody along the edge, and then with a pretty strong flex pattern, you can still lay into this thing and give it all of your skier input and all of your power, and it'll respond well, much like an Enforcer 100 would.
Yeah, I think that they've taken a little bit of that on-trail personality of the outgoing 99 Ti. You know, they've shortened that effective edge in this by
more
adding
taper.
the tail rocker, and just made it a little bit more drifty.
Yeah.
Which
I think it's the right thing to do.
I think it's the right thing to do. You know, they went to the full sidewall. You know, there's just a couple of small tweaks that really kind of add up to, you know, not a wholesale change,
Not
but
like
certainly
big changes, but noticeable
yeah,
changes.
they're noticeable for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that from like a friendliness perspective, this is a better choice than the outgoing model.
And I think it feels more like a K2 is supposed to. And there's probably a K2 engineer watching this video right now being like, you don't get to decide what my skis feel like,
Right.
but the brand has a certain perception, or we as skiers perceive K2 you know, through a certain lens.
Yeah.
And I think that lens is playfulness and kind of more of a free-ridey brand.
Yeah.
And I think this ski aligns more to how at least I think about the company.
No, I think I think the improvements are worthwhile. You know, that old one was a little bit more Cadillac style in terms of just setting that edge and letting it ride.
Yep.
This one is just a little bit more able to break that trend and, you know, free the edges and let it drift and smear around while still having that same, you know, the density of the ski. I mean, it's always a pretty heavy ski.
Yep.
But having that density and stability has not gone anywhere. It's just a slightly different feel underfoot.
Yep. Yeah, great ski.
Kastle MX 98. This one is pretty interesting, pretty fun. Quite a bit of work to get this thing to really reach its apex of performance.
Yeah, look at that tail shape.
Put that tail shape up there. I want to grab the Stockli as well for this one.
That's the closest tail shape, isn't it?
That's the closest tail shape. So we really have these squared off tails with these two skis here, but just
It's interesting that they're both really expensive.
I found that somewhat coincidental, but not at the same time.
It's totally coincidental, I think.
No, I mean, like these companies are known for making precision, high quality skis.
It's not like it costs more to put a tail shape like that on a ski.
No, but what's interesting is like Kastle keeps this squared off tail shape through everything.
Yeah.
So does Stockli, for that matter. But you know, having that squared off tail with that metal in there certainly speaks to the on-trail prowess of this one. They still have a very similar construction with a central cord of denser wood and a little bit less dense wood stringers on the outside. Still have the two sheets of metal in here, but what they've changed is they've gone from kind of an individually laminated fiberglass sheet to a pre-preg laminate. So, you know, basically it's making it slightly stiffer because they're able to fine-tune that fiberglass at the factory. You know, we didn't notice an enormous difference.
No.
I would say that it had maybe just a little bit more energy to it, but maybe not. If you skied them back to back, I'd give you $10 if you could tell me the difference.
I was going to say the same thing.
You know,
like I don't think I could feel a difference.
Yeah.
I appreciate that there's a difference and that like they went back to the drawing board and they made some technical differences in it, and like, yeah, I understand and appreciate that, but as a skier, I'm not sure it really comes through in its feel.
I could hear a difference in the 88.
There you go.
But I couldn't quite tell in the 83 and in this 98.
Yeah.
You know, they have, as opposed to the narrower versions, there is just the slightest of slight tip rocker in here.
Yep.
I would go so far as to say there is no tail rocker in here.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's not tail rocker.
That's a flat tail.
Yep.
But having that slight tip rocker is Kastle's way of saying, you can ski this in the powder. But still, it's on that heavier side where It's meant for higher speed carving on trail. Firmer snow is really where this thing excels and separates itself from other skis on the wall.
You can ski powder in a GS ski too,
Sure.
as far as I'm concerned. But I think the best way to think about this ski is it's a wide carving ski, much like the Bonafide 97. You know, it's pretty stiff. It's got that flat tail, so it's going to be pretty demanding, especially if you take it off trail and you're trying to make quick turns on it at slower speeds. It's not really going to do that very well. So it's more like a wide carving ski, where the next ski that we're going to talk about feels much more like a narrow powder ski. So kind of cool to see how K2 is differentiating those two skis.
And interesting to see where they are in the line. So this is the widest MX,
right, and
whereas
that's
this is the narrowest ZX.
Exactly.
So it definitely takes that MX on trail, you know, front side / all mountain, and puts it in the wider bodied format.
So that's if you like live out west and you like to carve no matter what, great ski.
Yep, for sure. But definitely requires that skill to access the entirety of the performance.
100%.
So, you know, pretty demanding back here. It definitely has that quality of a performance and precision ski, and that is backed up by its price.
Yep. So like we were saying, wide carving ski, this ZX100 really is a narrow powder ski. It's taking the shape of skis like the ZX108, and it's just narrower. In fact, I would say that I think this is the best floater on this wall.
Okay.
I don't know what ski would rival it in pure flotation.
I'd put a vote for the Salomon.
Okay. Yeah, that's got a nice wide shovel.
The QST. And I'd also, I mean, I've skied this Enforcer 100 on some pretty deep days.
Sure.
It is heavy, but this thing is fantastic, just following that ZX 108 profile.
Yeah, the tip is nice and wide, and then when you add in that hollow tech, a lighter ski is going to float a little bit better just based on how physics work. A heavier tip is going to want to kind of dive a little bit more. So this ski's got great float, and there are other skis up here, like you just pointed out, Bob, that have great float. Even like that Justis has great float.
Sure.
But this ski, this ZX100, really kind of sets itself apart from all those other skis up here in the fact that it doesn't have much tail rocker.
Right.
So it makes it really like a true directional powder ski, and one that's kind of, in my opinion, best for a more technical skier, which makes sense because it's a Kastle. And when I think of Kastle, I think of technical skiers. I think of precision and really good technique, and people that really value a high quality, high-end ski to work with the skiing technique that they've been developing for their whole life. And I think that's a great way to think about this ski. Like, it's so good as a powder ski that I feel like for a lot of people, especially here in the East, like this could be your dedicated powder ski. You don't need to go wider than this.
Right.
It's perfectly good in soft snow. Like, look at that shovel. There's a lot of width up there, so you're going to stay right on top of everything. Now, there's no metal in this ski, so if we were to kind of look at the other side of the spectrum, you won't get anywhere near the vibration damping in this ski as you do in an MX98. It doesn't hold an edge the same. It's really, you know, it's not really like a good carver, which is fine because it's just extremely quick and floaty and agile.
Yeah, but if you think about someone like my style of skiing, where I do prefer those shorter swing turns, I fit way better into this than I do MX98 or an FX96 Ti. Like, this is my jam. Yep. You know, I love making those short, quick turns, having that agility, and then being able to, you know, play in the trees and have fun in the soft snow. Yep. But when I'm skiing by myself, I am generally making shorter than stated radius turns. Yep. And this one, you know, even going, like last year when we first got on it, going from FX96 Ti to this.
Yeah, there's a difference between those skis.
Thinking this was going to be washy in a noodle, I was totally surprised at how grippy and energetic it was.
Well, there's really, just to take one more look at it, there's quite high camber height in this ski,
Yeah.
and it's that, like, you know, it's hard for me to actually decamber it with my hands. And
Yeah.
anytime that's the case, you're going to get a lot of snap and energy and actually some stability out of it too,
Yeah.
because there's so much camber.
No, pretty psyched on this thing, and you know, it's amazing when you put this next to the 108, and just seeing how similar,
similar.
those
Yeah.
those profiles are.
Yep.
Liberty Evolv 100. This one's pretty cool. You know, we've had. Oh, there goes the Origin 101.
Oh boy, the sign moved a little bit.
Okay, we got to be careful. There's a lot of skis up here.
It's dangerous.
Oh, that thing really wants to go. That's because of that rounded tail shape, which we'll get to in a minute. But not so much in the Evolv.
Nope, much flatter tail on that
Very
thing.
much a flatter tail on this one.
Yep.
Certainly highlights that front side personality. You know, talking about a wider carving ski like the MX98, I would put this into that same category.
100%.
It just goes about it in a far different format.
Yep.
So using, you know, bamboo and aspen in the wood core, and then combining it with the 3 vertical metal struts, as well as carbon stringers. They are just using different materials, put in different ways to, you know, hope for the same results as an MX98. You're not getting that same level of precision and stability, but you are getting a unique feel and ride to it. One of the things that stands out about these Liberties is just the thickness of that sidewall
I
profile.
think that's how they achieve a lot of the stability.
Yeah, by putting more distance basically between your foot and the snow, they are creating, you know, more area for vibrations to get dispersed.
Yeah.
The vertical metal does a great job at doing that as well, as kind of working, you know, like a tuning fork, just kind of taking those vibrations and filtering them out.
That vertical metal also keeps the ski very composed.
Yeah.
Almost better than like horizontal sheets of metal.
Yeah.
Like people have talked about counterflexing and how the vertical metal strips are better at stopping the tip from bouncing.
Right, from going that way.
Exactly.
In a skiing format.
Exactly.
Obviously you can bend a ski backwards, but.
Right. But when you're skiing, it just stays composed and really glued to the snow.
1,915 grams. We put this into the medium category.
Yeah, so among skis
terms
that
of
achieve
weight.
this much power and they're
Yep.
this good at carving, it is easily one of the lighter. Not as light as a Maverick 100, I will say that, but you know, lighter than a Bonafide, lighter than an MX98, et cetera, et cetera.
And they keep this nice low profile tip as well. Minimal splay here. That highlights certainly that on-trail performance.
Yeah, no taper in that ski. It's
no
just gonna
taper.
rip you into a turn.
Yep, super long effective edge. The longer that edge is on the snow, the smoother the feel is going to be. You know, when we first got on Evolv 90 a couple years ago, that's what stood out to me was, wow, how smooth is this thing? This adds that extra material to that, you know, the additional metal from a couple years ago, and you know, it just takes that silence and that smoothness to the next level.
Yep.
But basically, not a whole lot going on in terms of tail rocker. I mean, it's low, but it's minimal.
Yep.
But again, nice camber underfoot, and you know, this, like, it's interesting talking about like this skier, you know, who's going to go into a shop or shop online and settle on this.
I think there's like at least part of it, I think you as a person, and this goes beyond skiing, this like more of a personality trait or like a personality preference in how you act as a consumer. You like supporting smaller companies.
Yeah.
I just like, which feels so arbitrary and like something that probably we shouldn't even talk about. But if you want to differentiate that ski from the other high-end carving skis in this width range, like why not? Why not focus on that? Like some people just like supporting smaller companies or kind of like being a little bit more independent, and like if that's the reason, I think that's a great reason.
Right, and it's not like the difference in performance between an MX98 and this is so great that you're going to notice an enormous difference. You're saying that small things like that do play into someone's purchasing strategy.
Maybe you like the color red.
Right.
I don't care. You can justify it however you want, but I think there are plenty of reasons why you would choose an Evolv 100.
And it's cool, like Evolv, you know, 84, 90, 100, and a 110. Like they make a wider version of this
whole
ski,
line,
which is crazy. And I actually skied them all back to back to back to back on test day number 3 last year. It was pretty interesting just seeing the difference in the personality and behavior.
Yeah, that 110 starts getting into like high-speed big mountain ski.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yep, with that flat tail and it just
Yep.
tracks straight and doesn't break at all.
Yep. Now this Origin 101 that we have next, I think when you think of Liberty as a company, their history, their traditions, what they're known for, this is probably the best example of a Liberty ski. This ski is kind of, I would say, perfectly blurring the line between directional freeride and a little bit of freestyle influence. We'll look at the shape in a second. I wouldn't go quite as far as calling it a twin tip, but it's got some twin tip characteristics that comes through in its feel. A lot more rocker than that Evolv 100, just under 2,000 grams in this ski, so just right middle of the road.
Yep.
You know, nothing crazy, not super, super heavy, not super light. Really the differences between especially this ski and the Evolv 100, but also this ski and a lot of the other skis up here is the amount of rocker it has. So that is maybe the most tip rocker up here. QST 98's got to be close. There's a couple others that are probably close too, but that's a lot.
It's long.
That's a lot of tip rocker. And we actually get quite a bit of rocker in the tail too. So this ski has, when you want it to feel that way, it has a very, very surfy, agile feel.
Yep.
Super, super easy to release the tail edge. And Bob kind of pointed out the roundness of the tail when it was trying to fall over there. That's where I see kind of the twin tip influence. I've skied this backwards. It's fine. If you want to ski backwards a little bit, it'll work. I don't think it's a park ski.
Yeah.
I think that's like kind of where I'd draw the line from its twin tip capabilities, where we do have a decent amount of skis up here that are perfectly capable in the park. Bent, M-Free, Blend is a park ski. Unleashed 98, Black Ops 98, like there's plenty of skis up here that I would be perfectly happy skiing in the park. This I'd be a little nervous, but if the Evolv 100 leans towards carving prowess and performance, this leans more towards trees, soft snow, that type of skier, that type of skiing, that application, which maybe is reflected in the fact that there's trees on the graphic.
I think it lines up quite well.
I do too. But I think that's a perfect way to think about this ski. If you want a ski that is very, very well-rounded, I do think this is very well-rounded. It has that one strip, that VMT 1.0,
Yep.
so you do get some stability in it. But you as a skier, you lean more towards the playful side of the spectrum. You like going off trail. You like seeking out soft snow, natural hits. You could pop little 360s off natural hits. I think that's a perfect way to think about this ski. But you just lean towards the playful side of the spectrum, where that Evolv leans more towards the carving precision side of the spectrum.
Yeah, and we actually got to see some pretty high performance skiing on this thing.
Yeah,
this year.
we got footage of that too.
Yeah, which
so
is, you know, if you're worried about a ceiling,
not much of one.
Not much of one with that ski.
No, maybe you're watching that right now, but yeah, Zach sure laid over some impressive turns on this ski. And that's where that VMT 1.0 is coming into play. That's, you know, it's these vertical strips of metal. It's not by mass. There's not much metal in this ski.
Right.
Like if you were to actually take out the amount of metal and like melt it down,
ball it up.
Right,
Yeah,
it'd be like
tiny.
that much metal. Where some of these skis, you'd do that and you'd have like a chunk of metal.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think that's a good example of how well the vertical metal can add to a ski's strength and stability.
Yep. But yeah, round shape, round turns, well-rounded. Everything about this thing is just.
I had a blast. I
Just
think we
round.
did. It wasn't this past spring. It was the previous spring.
Yeah.
We did a long review of that, and I skied like, I don't know, 10 spring days in a
you had a
row
bunch of days.
on the Origin
Yeah.
101, and I just kept being like, well, no, why would I ski anything different?
Right.
Like this is literally perfect for what we're going to be skiing.
Yeah.
So, super, super fun ski.
Would you say that this might be an outlier of the group here?
I put that into the written comparison. Yeah, it almost doesn't make sense to have this ski in this group. It really doesn't make sense for you to talk about it either.
Well, we can both talk about it.
I'm just kidding. But no, when it comes to like twin tips and 100 millimeter underfoot skis, This is like the closest thing to a dedicated park ski that you're going to
Yeah.
get, and that is coming from that flex pattern. You can almost bend it in half.
It is crazy. It is by far the most flexible ski on this wall and likely in this warehouse.
Yeah,
I just
maybe
think
Sir
it's-
Francis Bacon.
When
When I was writing,
I don't
that's,
think so.
that's the ski that came to mind as could potentially be softer, but yeah, like you said, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
This thing's crazy. It just uses a really thin layer of maple macro block in the wood core.
Yeah, tips and tails are so thin.
So thin, just like razor thin.
Yeah.
You know, you can just tell that they took everything out of the ski that didn't need to be there. And the result is, you know, I would even go so far as to say that this is more difficult to take off park jumps than a more sturdy option like Unleashed or Black Ops.
It's a wide jibbing ski.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
ground oriented in my mind.
Yeah, rails, ground tricks.
Yeah, your swerving style
Yep.
and everything like that.
Yep.
Your nose blocks.
Yep.
Probably even too soft for nose blocks.
No, it's perfect.
Do you have the video of you flipping out of the nose
Yes,
block
here
on
it
this
is.
one? Okay,
Yep.
good. So just being able to use this ski and really kind of like, you know, slime
Play.
your way through turns.
Yeah, just play. Play everywhere.
Yeah, and you know, obviously you're not going to get the same amount of performance on the top end. It's just not going to hold up. But for the slower speed, really just creative style of skiing, nothing's going to serve you better than this.
Nope.
So
Yep.
that's it. You know, if you're looking for that style of ski where you just want ultimate flexibility and maneuverability, this one is on that side of the spectrum and burying the needle.
Yep.
So really cool option.
Yeah, I had
You know-
fun like carving on it too. It's just like you gotta be really delicate.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't let your weight get too far
Nope.
forward or too far back. Your weight has to be perfectly centered over the
Yeah.
center of the ski.
1,865 grams.
Not heavy. Nope.
Not too heavy. But just, you know, just an incredible option, totally different than so much else out there, and just a whole lot of fun.
It's almost like the pro model ski of a good friend of mine, Will Wesson.
Yeah.
And if you're unfamiliar with how Will skis, just go Google Will Wesson and watch a little bit of what Will does on skis, and that is perhaps the best way to describe and visualize what this ski is designed for.
Each time that we bring this thing out, we just like have such a blast.
Just bending it?
Bending it.
Yeah, it's fun.
You know, it won't stop.
Nope, ollies, nollies, smears, presses, nose
Yeah.
blocks, all those fun things. Manuals, people manual on skis now, which is just like being in the back
Be in the
seat
back
forever.
seat. Yeah. Kind of a stark opposite to this
Totally.
one, I guess.
Yep, and you know, I think I used the term benchmark when describing the Bonafide 97. Maybe the Enforcer 100 is the best benchmark for the 100 underfoot versatile all-mountain category. It is so good. We pretty much don't need to talk about it. Whoever's watching this video right now, if you're watching this section, you probably already know what this ski is all about.
But yet it continues to come back and be impressive.
I mean, its longevity
Yeah.
is maybe the most impressive thing at this point. It maybe was when it first came out in this current form, or at least in like the re-release of the Enforcer name. So
Yeah.
whenever that was, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever that was, it was probably the best at combining maneuverability and off-trail capabilities with strong on-trail performance. This is a powerful ski.
Yep.
There's 2 sheets of metal in here, but they kind of just nailed the shape. So much so that, like, I would just go as far as saying that you've seen kind of people try and copy it,
Yep.
which is fine. Like, if somebody comes up with a good product, yeah, eventually that's going to kind of trickle into the rest of the industry and the rest of the market. But just so good. A little bit of a shorter turn radius than some skis with this much metal, and I think that's part of its appeal. Is it doesn't take quite as much work to come across the fall line as like maybe an MX-98 would be a good example. It just feels a little bit more lively, a little bit more energetic, a little bit more approachable. Like, we typically don't like to recommend this ski for an intermediate, but it's kind of the type of ski where like it's not going to beat them up. you might not see that skier like laying over crazy high edge angle carves,
Right.
but they're also not going to be like walking down the trail crying.
Sure.
Like,
I would hope not.
they'll make it down. Now, I do think that there's so many good things to say about this ski, but it is worth, this is a comparison video. We're having a discussion here. It is worth bringing up how much this ski weighs.
Sure.
So over 2,100 grams. This is the 179 centimeter length. So when you get up into 186 and beyond, even heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
So although it's approachable, although it's extremely versatile, for some skiers, and I would even go as far as saying for a lot of skiers, it's going to be pretty fatiguing. It's not as demanding, but it's tiring.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of weight on your feet. So if you're maneuvering through trees or something like that, or just like the amount that it's kind of hanging off your feet on the chairlift, all those things add up. So because this is a discussion, because we're kind of talking about the strengths and weaknesses of all these skis, that's one of the weaknesses of the Enforcer 100, and perhaps the only weakness.
And as an owner of a 191 Enforcer 100,
You're tired all the time.
I can speak volumes about that, and
And it's a great ski. You love it. You're not going to
Totally.
get rid of that ski.
no way, never.
Right.
It's
but-
awesome. And like I said, I've had it on some pretty deep days too, and it's a fantastic
Yep.
floater
Yep.
For how heavy it is, and kind of, again, speaks to the shape. And the thing just rails, turns. It's about as smooth and stable as it gets.
And intuitive.
And and I think that this kind of pioneered that thinner metal that
Yes.
like Maverick is picking up on.
Yeah, you're
where
seeing
they're-
that whole concept start trickling into other skis for
Yeah.
sure.
So they got the denser wood core in here, but they also have the two thin sheets of metal. So that kind of makes it, able to be agile. So for a heavy ski, it's pretty quick. And that's what the big thing was when this thing first came out again.
Yes.
That
Right.
they really kind of nailed the weight to quickness ratio.
Yep.
I think if I had to do it again, I would get the 186 as opposed
Sure.
to the 191. Not only for that shorter turn radius, but also just a little bit friendlier, in
Yep.
these tighter spaces that we have here in Vermont.
Since they changed the length breakdown, I've become a 179 skier.
Yeah, I used to have the 193.
Right.
In the
And I used to prefer
Re-release.
185, was it?
Yep.
That I really felt like 185 was better for me than 177, but for whatever reason, this 179 now feels perfect.
Yeah, but no, nothing wrong with the performance of this ski
Nope.
at all. This
Nope.
Enforcer 100 is right up there with the best of the bunch.
I can only imagine we're going to see it in a similar form for many more years to come.
It's always
'Cause like you
interesting
said,
to
it
wonder
still
about that,
remains to be it's a great ski.
Yeah, and you wonder like what they would do to this that
Right, what are you going to do to change it?
makes it that much better without changing Enforcer
Right.
entirely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Just keep making Unleashed skis.
Okay.
Just keep that one the same and just make things like this.
This thing's cool. Nordica Unleashed 98. New ski this year. Fills the spot where Soul Rider 97 used to be. But boy,
Shed a small tear. For
I know.
Soul
I mean, like, we both loved our Soul Riders, but, like, how much do you
I
like
forgot
this
about
thing?
it entirely as soon as I
Come
skied
on
this.
now.
No, I still have my Soul Rider. I'll probably keep it just for nostalgia purposes.
Yeah.
But boy, this thing's awesome.
So basically, they took the construction of Santa Ana, so a lighter weight wood core with a sheet of, it even has that
Terrain-specific metal.
terrain-specific metal. So it's not a full sheet. They leave it open along the sides.
Yeah.
So it's a twin tip with metal, which is just right up our alley.
Yeah.
It has more camber in it, so it kind of borrows from Soul Rider in terms of the camber profile. And really just that combines to deliver a crazy amount of energy to this ski. I mean,
Yeah, it's Soul Rider and Santa Ana just smashed together.
yeah, and when you match this up with like an Enforcer, that Enforcer rocker is a lot more gentle.
Gradual, yeah.
This just has that more splayed out tip,
It's more twin tippy.
more twin tippy, so that it's a longer effective edge.
Yeah.
It definitely has that long effective edge feel to it. Twin tip, park skis with metal, it's kind of a, it's an oxymoron, but seems to work, doesn't it?
It's 100%, and it's a growing category, and I've been talking about it for years and years and years and years, maybe over a decade, just kind of waiting for more, I don't know, more emphasis on this category, just manufacturers like taking it seriously. And I think a lot of that has been like the new school park generation like myself aging into their 30s and 40s. Is now there's actually people with disposable income that can like afford a ski like this. So manufacturers are now like, oh, whoa, we can like actually build a twin tip with good construction and people are gonna buy it. Okay. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, it literally works perfect for how I ski. It's like, everyone's different, and we emphasize that a lot here on skiessentials.com. That ski performance is very, very subjective, but I'll just go out and say, like, if I had to pick one ski on this wall for myself, it would be this thing 100%.
They should have just called it the Jeff Nagel Pro Model.
That would be fine.
That would have been perfect.
But, like, weird also.
And
because a ton of people would be like, what is this?
Right. A lot of good comparisons to this one here. We'll get to that.
We can just transition right to Black Ops 98 if you want to.
We can talk about that. Similar shape overall and
similar concept
and philosophy.
Yep.
That not as much of a long rocker profile, definitely focuses more on the camber underfoot.
Yep.
Doesn't use metal, as a supportive structure like Unleashed does.
Yep.
Focuses more on using that fiberglass laminates, epoxy,
some
rubber in the tips and tails.
Yeah.
Ends up being pretty darn smooth and stable in, not only in comparison, but on its own. So
before this ski came out, this felt like kind of the leader in the like damp twin tip category. And now it's at least got a competitor. Yeah. And if you want, you can just put this one back and hand me that other Black Ops 98 over there. Like Bob was saying, they just utilize some different materials in here. A lot of rubber. And it's got a very damp kind of rubbery feel to it, which is cool. I will say it's so damp that you get more quickness and energy out of that ski and just more of a smooth, damp, just ton of vibration damping in this
No, it's
ski.
very quiet, very silent.
And if throw it on the scale, I believe this ski is actually heavier.
It is.
So, over 2,000 grams, but just a tiny bit.
This was 1,800 and change.
Yeah, so over 100 gram difference between these two skis. So you could actually argue that you get more stability out of this, and I think that's especially true if you're more of like a directional skier that likes the idea of a twin tip, where the Unleashed starts to feel more like you're a twin tip skier that likes the idea of stability.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, and like also in terms of who skis on it, like, our friend Austin from Rossignol.
Yeah, he loves it.
Big, powerful skier.
100%, but like freestyle background too.
Freestyle background, just hammers on this thing. It's not like, he's quick and agile, but he is a heavy skier.
He's just about as big as you.
Yeah, but he lays this thing over like it's a GS ski.
Yep.
So, like we talked about with the Origin, that performance ceiling is there. Like it's hard to get to,
Yes.
It's
very, very, very hard to get to on this ski.
Yeah,
and we've seen that from a lot of people, because this ski is the same as it's been for a long time now. The name has changed. It was the Holy Shred. Before that, it was the Black Ops 98. Now it's the Black Ops 98 again. Those are all the same skis. But that means we've had it in our ski test like 5 years in a row now. Yeah. And we've put a lot of powerful, really, really good directional skiers on it, and they all have very, very positive things to say about it. So, very cool ski.
Yeah, definitely. And, more of like the mountain is your playground type of twin tip here versus even I would say this, where the terrain park is more of your playground.
Yeah,
so
and we might be like oversimplifying things there, but I think that's at least a good way to differentiate between those two skis in your head. Is the Unleashed feels more like a twin tip, and the Black Ops feels more like a free ride ski.
Yeah, very playful on both of these accounts, and a really good comparison.
Yep.
So kind of in contrast to these free ridey twin tips, we get a little bit more of a straight cut ski here. with this Stance 102.
Boy, you've developed a fondness for this ski, partly thanks to our trip to Alta.
Yeah, but day one on this thing, I was pretty bullish
Which was,
on it.
3 years ago?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago. And I'll never forget, because I was on, I was on the 183. And I have very vivid memories of tipping my ankles over and almost falling over.
Because of the straight
Yeah,
turn radius?
I didn't know anything about this ski before getting on it.
So 23 meter turn radius in that 183?
This is the 176.
Oh, sorry.
So when you get
22.5.
Yeah, so when you
Fairly
get
different.
But when you get longer, so
Then it's
183,
really big. 24?
23, and then 190, 24.
Yeah.
So
Big radius.
big radius, nice straight cut. Salomon uses their wood core. They get 2 sheets of metal with this wood, with the cutouts here. So they put in carbon and flax material in there to lighten the load, add a little bit of energy to the mix. But overall, just incredibly stable and smooth. That straight cut really, really just allows you to take an aggressive path down the fall line.
Yeah.
Cuts really well through crud and chop.
Thing loves going fast.
I would say that this is probably the best crud and chop and manky snow ski here. Maybe I'd put a vote in for Mantra 102 in that regard.
Yeah, Justis can't be too far behind.
Not too far behind.
Mindbender 99's in there.
I just
But
feel
I know
like
what
this,
you're saying.
like this cut just makes a huge difference.
Yep, and the mass, just the ski, just
Yeah.
nothing's gonna move that thing out of
No.
You're not gonna deter that ski. It's just going.
And an interesting tail rocker profile as well.
Yeah, and that's where I draw a lot of similarities to this Justis. And I
It's-
think maybe it's worth actually looking at them side by side. I think this ski is a little bit more pronounced.
But the length is similar
Very
per
similar.
application.
Yep.
This just has that, it really just starts here and just bends out and goes straight. There's
where
no
This has a little bit of.
there's no curve
splay.
to it.
Yep.
It starts here and it ends there. So
But
minimal
both
splay.
skis achieve really good directional stability, and then you can just throw them sideways.
Yep.
It's that straight, sideways, straight, sideways, straight, sideways skiing style.
Yeah. And so like you were saying, we got on these, or I skied these in Alta
Yeah, I don't think I got
this spring, and this was on the heels of us skiing the new QST 106, which while we were skiing in the QST 106, I think we were both remarking, what a perfect Alta ski. And then I got on this and I said, what a perfect Alta ski.
Right. Just with slight differences, and
Yep.
you kind of just focus on yourself as a skier if you're
Right.
choosing between things like that. And pretty much everything that you say about the QST 106 or what you're about to say, you could say the same thing about that 98
Yeah.
over there.
But this just does it at a very high level of speed and performance.
Yep.
It's definitely happier at speed because you have to get it up to certain velocities to get it to bend and carve.
Yep.
So that's kind of I wouldn't say that that's a poor quality of this ski, but it certainly
no, it
is
just
something.
puts it in a certain
Yeah.
category, more from ability level than anything else.
Yeah, and preference too. Like I was
Yeah.
saying, all things being equal, I prefer a longer turn radius ski on a daily basis.
Sure.
So, whether you like that or not, or whether you just ski faster and want something that will track along with that speed, that's where something like this really comes in handy. And then when we get into QST 98, which is now, we can talk about just kind of how they've differentiated the two over the past few years.
Yep.
So, I can hang up the Stance now. We can get into the Salomon,
Yeah, sure. Hand me
the
that
QST.
98.
But generally, I feel like they've done a great job at distancing
Yes.
the QST 98 from Stance 96 and 102. Specifically the 102, though, just kind of putting more of a playful emphasis on that, and then more kind of business on this one.
Yeah, so this is not reliant on metal for its performance. More just wood, CFX.
Yep.
And then a big, big difference is the radius. So this 183 has a 17-meter turn radius. And like you were mentioning, I think when we were talking about the DPS, just such a short effective edge in this ski. And that's That's got to be the first thing that everyone notices. I don't remember what ski I said had the most tip rocker up here, but now it could be
You
this.
said it was this.
Yeah, it could be this. They're close.
Yeah.
And then same is true in the tail. In fact, I'd feel pretty confident saying that's the most tail rocker in this ski. So with that rocker profile, and then you also get this early taper shape in the tips and tails, this thing is insanely agile.
Yeah.
It is so playful. It's really cool. One of the best tree skis up here,
Yep.
hands down. It just slips and smears around behind you effortlessly. Quite amazingly, they've retained some weird amount of strength underfoot. Like, I don't really know how. They put that kind of double sidewall feature in
Yep.
there, which I gotta give a lot of credit to that. But it actually feels pretty strong too. So it's this interesting mix of a highly playful, maneuverable, surfy shape, but then a good amount of strength too, and quite good vibration damping.
Yeah, and I think if we had the equal length in the DPS, we would be able to see more
A lot
similarities.
more similarities, yeah.
But just given the shortness of that, it's hard to make out the differences.
Yeah.
I would also venture to say that this is one of the longer skis that you would ski. This is the 183.
Yes, great point, Bob. This is my length 100%.
Yeah.
Anything shorter than this would feel quite short to me, given
Yeah.
this rocker profile.
And I've skied both this and the 189, and same thing, I'm 189 all day in this.
Right,
And
where, what was it when we were talking about Justis,
Justis,
189?
yep.
That's a different animal in
Yeah.
a 189, where this is much more approachable, much
Right.
more forgiving and user-friendly.
Yeah, and just with that taper shape and the rocker profile, definitely one of the best floating 98s
Yep.
in the ski market today.
It's also like almost a twin tip,
yeah,
like so much so that you can ski switch on it, no problem. I'm pretty sure I did that quite a lot when we were really testing this ski thoroughly, which was 2 ski seasons ago at this point. And I even know that some Salomon athletes actually use it as kind of a dedicated park ski.
yeah,
You're not going to be able to like truly center mount it, I don't think, or at least I wouldn't do that because I feel like you'd be kind of messing up the camber profile.
right.
But I don't know. I always like to point out the freestyle capabilities of a ski, and this is certainly a capable freestyle ski.
Yeah, and also like kind of an every person ski.
Yep.
There's this QST line as a whole, I would say,
Anyone can ski.
just has a huge range.
Yeah,
and if
anyone just get beyond a beginner
right,
and you're fine.
yeah,
All
because
the
it
way up
turns
to
so
expert.
easily.
Yeah.
But then, we've had these going pretty fast.
Yeah, totally.
And they are more than capable of withstanding top end speeds and aggressive skiing.
Yep.
And it's great that they come in that 189.
Yep.
That's I was kind of bummed out that the new 92 doesn't have that same length breakdown.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting to see how that, I believe it's a 185, which is the longest in the
Yeah, it'll be
92.
interesting if that's enough for you.
Yeah, if that feels like this does. But I definitely felt like this 183 was short due to the radius. And always interesting, when we get length questions, just to point out, like, I was happy on that head core 99 and a 177, but not quite as happy in this as a 183.
Right.
Or
which is
even,
so interesting.
the M-Free 99 and the 185.
Yeah, right.
Even.
Sure.
So it's just interesting how different skis have such different length differences.
Yeah.
And how they feel. So everything's different. Always happy to talk about how individual skis vary in that regard. And we got a new one.
Yeah.
New brand for us. Well, not a new, more of a new inline brand for us. We've done some Scott closeouts in the past, but have never had them in the ski test before.
Yeah, and for anyone wondering, we just didn't have a Prodigy 2 on hand. We wanted to include a faction up here, and you will see some factions in future comparisons.
We got the other ones.
Right.
We got all the other ones.
Got all the other wits.
But this is a Scott Pure Mission 98. And, just like the rest of the skis on this wall, built for versatility and really kind of all mountain use.
Nice and light, too.
Pretty light, 1,800 and change. So on the lighter end of the spectrum for skis on this wall. It does have metal underfoot, this metal plate. It is, structural there, but it's not like it's a full metal laminate. They do have carbon stringers, as you can kind of see in the window here, that run tip to tail. So it does make the ski pretty stiff. I would say that these have a good amount of energy compared to other things on the wall. Really just kind of bouncy and poppy from edge to edge.
Yep.
The day that we first got on these was a lovely snow day. It's pretty rare that, media days and powder days line up. We actually had a few this year. Nordica, this one.
Yeah, we had some fun days. I skied a pure piece 77 the entire day.
And you were more than happy, right?
I had more fun than anyone else.
Yeah. But so this, there's a similar version of this ski in a 90, and then this 98, and then a wider 109.
Yep.
But this one definitely strikes that middle ground between, in and out of bounds territory. Really, really grippy and energetic on groomers. And then the weight combined with, I would say this thing just hits a lot of boxes right down the middle. Not a crazy amount of rocker, but certainly more than what we see in more front-side oriented, wider skis.
Still a directional ski.
Very much so.
Yep.
And then, pretty standard in the tail as well for what you're looking for from a free ride.
Just very well-rounded.
Well-rounded ski.
I love that phrase
flat.
of even mix of performance characteristics.
Yep.
And that ski's got a very even mix of performance characteristics. We also had a big range of skiers on it in like ability level and level of aggressiveness, and it just seemed to work for everybody.
Yeah. The Scott seems to play around too with what we've noticed with just an overall thickness of that core profile. We talked about it with Liberty, just thicker sidewalls overall, and that gives it just a little bit more heft and stability, which we really enjoyed. But part of our enjoyment was just the overall conditions and fun factor of the day that we got these on. But based on our ski test results, like everyone liked this thing no matter what conditions they were in.
Right, that's kind of what I mean.
Yeah. And that's kind of the
Everyone
whole
seemed to
point.
like it.
Yep.
Works kind of everywhere. Not a superlative chaser.
No, except for universal appeal.
Right.
That's what we're looking for
or
here.
most versatile.
Yeah. This is like most liked.
Sure.
In high school.
That's the superlative most popular.
No, not most popular, because
gets along with everybody.
Yeah, I think that type of one. But super intuitive.
What's most popular?
I don't know. Probably I don't know. I'd say the Ranger's up there for most popular.
Like most talked about, maybe.
Yeah.
Enforcer 100, that's hard to ignore.
No.
Okay.
But
we're going to end the high school.
But psyched to get on these new Scott Pure Mission 98s.
Nice to have them in the ski test. Nice to have them up here in comparisons.
Yeah, totally.
It's about time.
We were impressed overall.
Yep. And then speaking of impressed, this is always one of my favorite skis. Maybe my favorite, just directional ski. I don't know. You guys probably know me as a skier at this point that I really like skis with a little bit of a twin tip or at least some tail rocker. But I certainly appreciate directional skis too. And every time I get to ski a Stormrider 102, I have an absolute blast.
Yeah.
So we looked at some similarities between the MX98 and this ski. Obviously we're wider here, but the differences go beyond that quite significantly in my opinion.
Yeah.
The tail shape is pretty similar. This ski is lighter, so around 1,950 grams. It's also considerably softer. In fact, I feel like it's quite a bit softer than you would perceive if you just looked at a picture of it online.
Or having a preconceived notion of a
Stockli as a brand.
And being like, wow, those must be really stiff, high-performance skis.
High performance, 100%.
Sure.
But it's not stiff in a longitudinal sense.
Right.
Like you can't do that on a stiff ski.
Right.
Not when you're built like me, because I'm not very strong. But very torsionally stiff. So it holds an edge really well. And I personally, and I think there's a lot of value in this objectively, I think it's cool when a ski has good vibration damping, which it absolutely does, partly thanks to this metal top sheet. That's we've talked about that quite a bit, your first thing that your feet are coming into contact with, basically.
Right.
So when you have good vibration damping, good torsional stiffness, but a softer longitudinal flex pattern, it makes it easier to bend the ski and thus like shorten up the radius of your turn,
Yep.
making it feel a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more user-friendly, less tiring. You don't have to give it that same skier input, but just as rewarding. So, I don't know. It's just so much fun to ski this thing. And maybe somebody your weight, you don't notice as much of a difference between this and a ski like the MX-98, but I certainly appreciate it at my weight and my skiing style, as it's easier to initiate, and I never feel like it's going to wash out. I never feel any lack of stability on it. It's just a lot of fun. It's also pretty darn good like in the trees and soft snow. Because the tips and tails are softer, even though the tail is, you know, flatter than most and squared off like that, because there's some give to it back here, it's not going to feel locked into a turn. It's not going to feel too demanding if you're wiggling it through trees. And fascinating that this is the widest ski that Stockli makes.
I think it's hilarious that the widest ski they make is a 102. In a good way.
Yeah.
It really shows their emphasis as a company.
Right, and they like precision, edge-to-edge quickness.
And the reality of the situation too, like how many days how many skiers need more than 102 millimeters underfoot?
Not many and not many.
Right. So they're really, you know, you might think that they're not appealing to that wider fat ski base, but the reality of the situation is that they are.
And this is a tool that you will take out of your quiver more often than your 115 underfoot dual rocker giant massive powder skis.
Yeah, and just, you know, as we talk about a lot, just the overall precision and quality of that thing is on a different level than most anything else.
Why does it feel good in your hand?
I don't know. They must have someone in their company that picks up a ski and says,
like,
no,
nope, this has got to go back.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as good.
But we've just picked up like 24 different skis, and I don't know why this feels higher quality when you're just holding it.
Yeah.
But it does.
And in contrast to some others, a thinner profile.
Very
thin.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think like the fact that like you kind of have to pinch it to hold it up here in the tip, but then you can just tell like by the way it sounds and everything about it it's just a quality ski. Rubber dust.
Rubber dust. It's amazing what they do with these things.
It's got to be the rubber dust.
And then, amazingly, to finish it off, we have another 102.
Yeah, we started with a 102 way over here, Bob.
Yeah, we see that. 102's on the end. Must be a popular width. But, you know, overall, I would say a different animal than that Stormrider 102.
And a different animal than, like, most skis up here.
Yeah, I would say it's certainly more akin to Declivity 102.
Yep, or like a flatter Justis.
Stormrider,
like if you took the Justis and took all the tail rocker out of it, getting close to Mantra 102.
Yeah, so a couple new upgrades for this year. What they did with Kendo, they did with this as well, which is what they did to Mantra and Secret previous year. Yep. So a few different instances here. They've added tailored carbon tips to the mix, tailored Titanal frame. They changed the shape a little bit, kind of tightened up the side cut just a bit. I think it's a meter shorter.
Foot, yep.
So it does feel more agile.
Yeah, more responsive, more intuitive.
Yeah, and I loved the Mantra 102 when it first came out. You know, kind of felt like it was a throwback to the wider, you know, Mantra 98 of years ago.
Yeah, what was the last one? Red?
Yeah, and, you know, and then they had the rockered version, which
the one before the rockered version.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mix between that and the M6 now, I guess. But you know, they've made it more agile by taking some of the metal out of the top here. It used to be just less sophisticated, so it was just the same width of metal along the edges on the frame. Now they've loosened that, but then added carbon. So they've really increased that torsional stiffness of the tip, which makes this thing just hook right into the turn. And then they still have the precision and power to the edges due to that Titanal frame. But then they kind of altered this middle portion of the metal here.
I like that.
I would say the distance between the frames is greater than it used to be.
Yep.
And that is allowing for more even and natural flex of the ski.
Bigger sweet spot. Yeah.
It just feels better.
Yep. 100%. That's probably the best way to describe it. It just feels better.
And the old one was great. It was just it felt a little planky and tank-like sometimes. Yep. Whereas this just feels more alive and more agile.
Yeah.
So I think these are really nice improvements that they did with this Mantra 102. Still heavy, if you're concerned about stability at all, I fear not.
Heavier skis up here.
Yeah, 2,158 grams, and this is the 177, I believe. Yep. So, as you go up into the 184, you're going to get even heavier. So, there's a lot of mass in this ski, from the materials and the shape.
But like you were saying, it's one of the best for tracking through choppy snow conditions, and that weight is a big reason why.
Oh, for sure.
Like when we're talking about weight, I think, and I often wonder about this, like are there people that just perceive it as a positive or a negative? Like lighter ski is better, heavier ski is bad.
Yeah.
But it's not that simple at all. Like there are benefits to having a heavier ski.
Right.
There are some people that want a heavier ski. So
similar to your downhill mountain bike coming
Sure.
in closer to 40 pounds than 20.
Sure.
So,
I don't know if that is 100% true though. If we could make downhill mountain bikes 20 pounds,
You think you'd like that?
I think so.
Okay.
Not 100% sure about that.
I would like a little bit more
Maybe
substance.
some professional downhill racers can chime in with their opinion.
Yeah. And my knowledge of downhill mountain bikes is limited at best. So,
Fair enough.
but in regards to the
analogy anyways.
But when it comes to the ski, Jeff's certainly right that having each and every extra gram underfoot is at some point going to translate into stability.
Yep.
So when you get into that choppy and manky snow, having something like this underfoot is hugely beneficial, given that you have the skills and balance and power necessary to pilot it.
Yeah, it's like an mandatory athletic advanced skier at least.
Yeah.
That's where the line is. Anybody up from there, you're fine. Anybody below there, probably don't get it.
Yeah. And, we've said that about a few skis on this wall today.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't make them worse.
Nope.
It just means like if you're an intermediate, you're going to have more fun on other stuff.
Yeah. Whereas this, I feel like that former racer who's looking for an all-mountain ski, a wider-bodied all-mountain ski, should look pretty closely at this thing.
And that's typically where you see the really positive feedback.
Yep.
Is ex-racers. They just love them.
Yep.
Love the precision, love the turn initiation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Makes them feel like a ski racer again, but you can go anywhere on it.
No, but I certainly approve of the changes that they made to 102 here.
Yep. All right, that's it, Bob. We did it.
Okay.
So that was it. That was our first 2023 ski comparison of the season. Felt like 100 underfoot all-mountain skis was a great place to start.
Yeah, just again, like they do everything really, really well.
Yep. Probably the most versatile category in general.
Yeah. And obviously, if you're skiing in Vermont, having something narrower is helpful.
Right.
But, with some of the more carving-oriented ones, not necessary.
And if you're skiing in Whistler, having something wider is helpful.
Sure.
But there's still a lot to like about this category.
Yeah, definitely.
So let us know if you have any questions about any of them. You guys are always great with your questions. We'll try and get back to you right away. A lot of great skis up here. I feel like there's kind of something for everyone on this wall.
Yep.
So let us know if you have any questions. Keep your eye out for more comparisons. I suppose you can leave a comment telling us what you think we should do next for comparisons, although I certainly cannot promise that we'll listen to you.
Okay. Good
But
deal.
I appreciate the input anyways. And who knows, if there's like an overwhelming response and everyone's like, 72,
Yeah.
then we'll do that. But that'd be weird.
If we have them.
That many 7,200 foot skis.
It'll be a short one.
Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you out there on the slopes.
Bye.